Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. MedLab in Smith Road Plaza, your complete medical laboratory solution. Call 949-7331. And Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village, convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays.
See what I'm saying?
See what I'm saying?
See what I'm saying. You don't want to miss this unique, informative audience participation, light-hearted show with lots and lots of Cayman jokes, culture, and guests. As we talk about things we say and do, it happening every third Friday on Talk Today.
See what I'm saying is a special feature of Talk Today, jointly produced by the National Museum and Radio Cayman. A language, history, and culture show. Remember, it's every third Friday on 89.9 and 93.9 FM. See what I'm saying? Begins right now.
Come on, Ray. Manzi boat in this sound.
I'm not dancing.
Manzi boat in this sound.
Or maybe I'll dance on the radio, yeah.
When you hear Ray singing Banka, you know it's all around. Well, there's two things about Fridays that you should be reminded of. One, it's the day before Saturday. And two, it's the day after Thursday. Other than that, all goes well. Well, I'm honored that once again, the Right Honorable Ray Banker sits with us. And publicly, Ray, thank you so much for all you're doing. I appreciate that this time around you didn't keep me up to 4 o'clock looking at stuff every day. How do you do it, my friend? And good afternoon
I have no idea. I don't know what you're talking about. So,
all right. Well, this month's production of See What I'm Saying, the record of 10 Sales, we have the current museum director, Dr. Pickett Denton, sits with us. And thanks very much. This is a story, I think, for many of us. We probably all heard about it. Mm-hmm. And as we get older, we hear more and more.
Yeah.
And I think I say this carefully because with so much of our history, that it's still an oral history. Things change, things are forgotten as people no longer talk about it. So maybe it's a chance to be reminded of, especially as we celebrate the anniversary.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's essentially the 228th anniversary of the wreck happening in the Cayman Islands. And, if you think about it, it is maybe it's the wreck of HMS Convert and a convoy of merchant ships that were sailing from Jamaica to Europe. But it is really a Caymanian event because we don't call it the wreck of HMS Convert. We call it the wreck of the 10 Sail. And I mean, from the time that the wrecks happened, it was 10 sailing ships. That's why they called it 10 Sail.
Yes, I have to say that because we keep getting asked if it's sail or sails.
Yeah.
We want to put that straight there today.
Sure.
It's sailor, and it's about the sailing vessels.
Yeah.
It's about the sailing vessels. In fact, in this era, if you saw, 10 ships on the horizon, you'd say, hark, there's 10 sail of,
I think Dwayne will say hark.
Ship ahoy! Ship ahoy!
Maybe it's hawk or something.
Ship ahoy! There's 10 sail on the horizon. I mean, every ship itself had plenty more than 10 sails. So some people get lost in the idea that 10 sail
one ship with
is
10
the name
sails
of one
or something.
ship.
Yeah, is what I heard. Yeah, and the name also.
And the name, and then the fact there was one ship. And see, little things that I think over time, either they get rewritten, literally, or in our minds, they become reconstituted. And here is something. So as part of the celebration, those some was official took a tour over the week. Some was unofficial and just with friends and family. Went again to look.
Good.
And over the years, you can see that the wrecks are becoming less and less visible almost from the shore.
It's true.
And soon, if we're not careful, we'll drive by there like we do so many places. Maybe the name will be gone. Maybe the memory won't be there. Henry?
Yeah, because the one that we remember most when we went there was when we were growing up was the Ridgefield. That was the one you could actually see on the reef. And then after within our lifetime, it's under the water now with all the storms and everything.
I saw the Ridgefield break in 1980. I was in the Roundhouse at East End when Hurricane Allen passed by, thankfully.
Right. Yeah.
70 miles from here. And the deck was full like this, and it just broke down in the middle. Mm-hmm. It didn't come over the reef, but later in Hurricane Gilbert, part of that came over the reef. And the bit that you see out there right now is a little part of the Ridgefield that's left still outside the reef.
Okay.
But the important thing also to remember is that it's not really gone. You know,
No.
it's just
under the water.
under the water and maybe broken up in pieces or concreted in a different way. But and the same with the wooden ships from the earlier times. They came over the reef in the same ways.
Well, and that's the amazing thing. I think people think because it's so long ago, this was 1794, this happened 228 years ago,
Yes.
that there's less of it. Or actually, I'm finding that you find more information about the stuff as time go on. Obviously, a lot of oral history, a lot of things have lost, but because of the internet and things like that, you'll find more stuff now. It just depends.
If I could, Ray, because
You can. It's your radio.
No, thank you, man. And but thank you for that. And I say this publicly, and I really, in your presence, Dr. Venter, admire Ray's tenacity. His approach to these shows, the programs. We will sit and we'll chat for hours on end about possible topics, and then we'll narrow it down to maybe 2 or 3, and then he'll take that in a lead. And I'm not going to be one to sort of compliment myself. I think I have a lot of energy. I'm industrious, but I struggle to keep up with this guy. And I joke not. He sends me stuff. I'm thinking about how is that related to this? And in that 4-hour video that he's watched every second, or sadly sometimes, because we all learn differently, it may be a lot of text, and he scanned it. And there might be 30 seconds in our 4-hour video that if you weren't paying attention to every second, you would have missed it. It might have been one word or one sentence in that pile of, as he calls it, writing. And if you don't, so I'm have to comb through this because the expectation that he saw it, I'm expected to see it as well and compliment his stuff. And I'm thinking, how do you do this? That approach, that diligence?
I had no idea all that was going on when I send you stuff.
Well, no. Fair enough, but it's because, to his credit, I guess he's recognized that my learning disabilities, he will highlight stuff. And he'll say, in this video...
I'm helping me is what I'm doing.
Yeah, at this point, this is the salient point.
Sure.
And I thought, thank you. But I still need the context. It's like reading the Bible, right? I mean, you can tear the leaf and carry it with you, but if you don't read before and after, you're lost.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I understand that. Yeah. So I mean, I know that Ray's going to, there's different ways to tell the story, and because we have 2 hours there, we can hear a lot of different ways. But Ray's going to come at it from some different angles, and hey, this is I'll see where it goes.
Can I ask the two of you, because well, you came at it from an academic perspective, right?
Well, I know. I mean, I first came here, you might call it academic, but in 1980, I was on a bicycle riding around and talking to the older people, and when I did the PhD research, I went down to East End with my little tape recorder.
So you were a tourist.
And I wasn't a tourist. I was. Look, I'm from the 8th District of Cayman. It was called Texas, but I've been in Cayman since 1986. This is my home. This is my heart right now. And so anyway, there's folklore, and number 2, there's the historical story, and then there's the archaeology. So all of it matters.
What I mean, I know you shared this with me way back when at Line 3B one Saturday, but what prompted you to take on this story, and especially for a PhD dissertation? What was it that drew you to it?
Well, as I said, I came to Cayman in 1980 with Texas A&M University as a volunteer archaeologist. The team had been invited by the Caymanian government to survey shipwreck sites, and it was an eye-opening opportunity for me to I loved Cayman. I loved the people of Cayman. And we lived in that roundhouse. We lived on the Brack. We visited Little Cayman, and we were on the Brack for 1 month. We were on Little Cayman for a couple of days, and then we were in Grand Cayman for 2 more than two additional months. And when we were in Grand Cayman, we lived in that roundhouse at the end. You know, it was built. It had like a big cistern in the middle, and we would pray for.
Is that the one that they tried to dress up as a like a castle, like or something?
Yeah, in those days it was very bare. You know, I mean, it was very plain, and the water just drained down, and we would just pray for rain to come, and the clouds would always come and then go around us. You know, so and we'd get in our little boats, and we would survey the reef. And when we were surveying the reef, we found more than we found a lot of different shipwreck sites, and I began to learn more about the age of the material and that sort of thing. That's we would make files on them.
So beforehand, did you know about the Wreck of the 10 Sails? Not until coming.
I didn't know about the Wreck of the 10 Sail till I got here, and people had learned. People did know from, Hearst and from Neville
Williams.
Book. They'd heard of the Wreck of the 10 Sail, but some would say it happened in 1788, and it was a Cordelia and all that stuff. By 1990, when I got here, even Roger Smith had discovered that it was a frigate convert, but nobody knew the merchant ships, and so that research came out in 1990 when. I went to England. I went to archives in, to the Public Record Office in Kew, and I went to Jamaica, to Spanish Town, and to the National Library of Jamaica, and found newspaper accounts, if you can imagine it.
There's a lot. I have to say, her book has a lot of footwork in there, and like I told her during snail mail days, where you have to wait on a letter to come back, or you go there physically and all that stuff.
It was,
so there's a lot of research.
It was amazing. It was amazing, and even because it takes an interesting twist, because the lead ship in the Wreck of the 10 Sail wrecked as a British frigate. However, it had been built as a French ship at the time that France, the revolution was going on. In fact, the keel was in the shipyard when the storming of the Bastille happened, and work stopped for a few months on it, but then it resumed, and the ship eventually was launched in 1790.
Let them eat cake days?
Yeah, that's
I want to know a couple of things about French Revolution.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very intense time in world history, really. European history, Caribbean history, and Caymanian history.
Speaking of that, I wanted to put sort of the wreck in context, like what was happening.
Sure.
So this is 1794. The wreck was. So I put 1793, 1794. Like the early 1800s and stuff, or very turn of the century. So England was ruled by George III, called him the Mad King, and that's what Georgetown is named after. Cuba was still owned by Spain. The U.S. president was George Washington, and during that time he established a permanent navy. Like Peggy said, it's the French Revolution started in 1793. 1793 to 1802, France and Great Britain were continuously at war, and basically that's why the ships were convoyed coming from Jamaica going to the UK. Was the U.S. ally at that point, because they just got their independence from Britain?
First of all, I mean, France and England and Spain, over the 18th century, they have changing alliances at that time. But fortunately, Great Britain was allies with Spain at the time, and of course the Spaniards were in Cuba. So after the Wreck of the 10 Sail, Lawford even gave a letter to the small next convoy, the merchant ships that sailed together onto Cuba, asking them to help them get more food and water and supplies and things like that. So we were friendly with the Spaniards, which was good because we were sailing through
I found that we were friendly with anybody, because at some part during even the War of Independence, Cayman, depending on what ship came in, they would help whatever.
Well,
I guess
sure.
that's left over from the pirate days.
Yeah, maybe so.
And then, during the same time, the Haitian Revolution, or it was called, what was it called? Saint Domingue?
Well, it was Saint Domingue. It was the huge huge slave revolt in Haiti.
Yes.
But this is all tied up in that. If there's
So I want to sort of set the stage of it. And then France abolishes slavery throughout the territories, but in 1802 they reestablished it. And locally, I've got through this story, there's so many different spellings of and through the history too. This time period, there's so many different spellings of Cayman. It's Caymanas, Caymanas, and even some of the principal inhabitants spelt it Camanas. So that can be difficult when searching online for things, the different spellings. And then, so in the east, this wreck happened in the East End region, right? So in 1773 was our first time. Gaul, we did a couple of shows where we mentioned Gaul and stuff, and we could get into his map later on, hopefully. So 1773, Gaul had East End area noted as Old Isaac, and it was Old Isaac. And I'm not sure, are they still...
There's a spot, yeah.
They're still known today, Old Isaacs?
Yeah, there's a spot up there. And not the Isaac that's the MP now. He's the young Isaac.
Maybe he's like, I don't know, that name, Cayman is famous for doing that. The names continue, and I could make note of that further on too. So it was Isaac Borden, and Gun Bluff was named in 73, and Borden Town was actually changed by Gaul. It was actually called Southside. And then there's a Corcus Reef that came up in that area during the oral history research. And chief magistrate at the time, we didn't have, we had what we call a Governor Borden, and it was Governor William Borden, and they named it of the Borden town, and he was actually Old Isaac's nephew. And he's also, his son became William Borden after. So there's a lot of William Bordens happening, and William Borden is principal in this story.
I was just going to say he was one of the two people given permission to continue the salvage in an official letter.
So he seemed to be he was one of the most important men at that time, I would think.
Must have been a mover and a shaker.
Yeah. And Hogsteyes, Georgetown was the primary port, I would think, saying that, and the center of happenings in Georgetown. Borden Town was becoming less important, a non-functioning port. But again, we had a couple of shows on Borden Town, and it seemed like that was a landing point for a lot of the ships, and because of I think the draft of the reef, maybe the hurricanes and stuff is what we found out that it became less functioning as a port, and Georgetown or Hogsteyes became the top one, and. A part that we don't hear about linked with the record 10 sale is in October 1793, Cayman was devastated by a strong hurricane. Possibly tracking it down, possibly it might have been two strong ones in the region that year.
We know about that because actually at the time of the Wreck of the 10 sale, the local people implored Lawford to take the people away because they were still suffering from the effects of the hurricane.
And when I hear that too, I think they got 10 wrecks on the shore, and they're getting a little excited. They would like to see these people get out of here, and we could work those wrecks. That's what I'm thinking when I say it. I mean, obviously.
Yeah. All right. So when we come back from the break, we certainly invite the callers up, and I'm intrigued by it because
I want to hear what people their oral history of what, especially the East Enders and around the region, what their story is with the record 10 sale, because I keep hearing so many different stories.
Right. Well, we're inviting the callers to share with us to learn more from that indomitable spirit that is Ray Banker. Dr. Peggy joins us as well, and we're celebrating the anniversary of the record 10 sale. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Freedom, Cayman Brack. Freedom, Little Cayman. Soft breezes, blue waters, no traffic. Unwind and rejuvenate your mind, body, and soul. Sister Island Staycations, a taste of freedom. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
medical lab services in Cayman. Go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza. Open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointment.
For medical lab services in Cayman. MedLab.
Ask our professional team about the benefits of cutting-edge technology with MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
Attention Caymanian job seekers. Do you want to know what jobs are available right now in the Cayman Islands? See all available jobs listed by occupation in the Jobs Cayman job directory printed in this week's local newspapers. Pick up the newspaper to see all available jobs listed by occupation. Then go to www.work.ky. That's WORC.ky to register and apply online.
From boat days to beach gatherings, leave the catering to Subway. Choose from small and large sandwich platters, double meat wrap platters, and top it off with optional cookie platters for dessert. Or ask about our Subway box to go with the option of 6-inch or foot-long sandwich, 1 cookie, and 1 bag of chips for all occasions and celebrations. Let Subway focus on the food so you can focus on the fun. Visit subway.ky for catering options. Subway. Eat fresh.
Thinking of getting a hybrid but don't know much about them? Vamp Motors has 3 great reasons why you should own the Toyota CHR. Hybrids save fuel, run cleaner, reduce CO2 emissions, and even recharge their batteries while being driven. So there's no need to plug in a hybrid, making it both economical and fun to drive. And you don't have to replace your battery every 2 years. The CHR Hybrid is reliable, providing up to 1 million kilometers on the same battery and engine. Oh, and now you can save $2,000 off the Toyota CHR, starting at only $33,500.
That's way more than 3 reasons.
True, but the best one is that it's on sale now. Test drive the Toyota CHR today at Vant Motors, Walkers Road, while stocks last.
It was Thursday, February 23rd, 1905, that Rotary was born. The vision of one man, Paul Harris. Thereafter, Rotary mushroomed beyond the Chicago club of 4 professional men from diverse backgrounds. Today, Rotary is the epitome of humanitarian service above self. Dynamic, active, effective. A global instrument in pursuit of peace. Working to resolve some of the world's most challenging problems. Indeed, Rotary helped to decide the United Nations Charter back in 1945. Rotary works to eradicate dreaded diseases. Today, we are steps away from a polio-free world. Rotary, fueling human development through varied and numerous global initiatives. Happy birthday, Rotary. 117 years of commitment to bettering humanity. From the Rotary and Rotaract families of the Cayman Islands. Rotary serves to change lives.
How would you describe WHA AH SAYIN?
A language, history, and culture show on Radio Cayman 89.9 and 93.9 FM.
Okay, I like that definition. Now let's get back to the show.
WHA AH SAYIN.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thanks for joining us. It is a month of WHA AH SAYIN, and Ray Banco, I tell you, synonymous with good things.
Oh, yeah.
And, Dr. Peggy Denton joins us. The phone lines are open as we talk of the record, the 10th sale, and celebrate an anniversary. We do have a caller. Hey, good afternoon and welcome, and thanks for calling.
Good afternoon. I just got one question before I get down into a big run for stew and run down. Has anybody done any research on the wreck of the Tukoi?
Tukoi. Don't heard that one. I have to
Dr. Peggy?
call it to Peggy.
That name sounds a little bit familiar. Is it in Little Cayman?
No. It's right out in the back of the Pioneer Reef off of Henning Beach. Anyway,
well,
maybe I'll call back later after this.
Sure.
I dive into this stew.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. And that's it. What Tukoi?
Yeah. By the way, Cam cooked it, so that's why it's going to be good.
Okay.
Well, hang on. Can we be the judge of that? I mean, do you have like extra you can serve and share?
No.
That's
my brother's not far away. I can send him. He can get me a bowl.
Once we take out the ABs, then they
oh, jeez, nothing left then. Oh, boy. Right. Okay, sir. You see that now? That's almost as bad as...
Tukoi, he said?
Yeah.
Tukoi.
It's probably been recorded. There's probably basic information. A lot of the sites around Grand Cayman, when we recorded them in 1980, and we've added to them. We probably have 140 on record. At this stage, but we made little site files, and we made notes about them, and we got the information from locals. In fact, Marshall Watler at East End showed us a lot of the sites that we surveyed at East End.
When and maybe Ray, I could probably, as you were going through the historical context, and I said earlier, it's not like reading the Bible. I say this carefully. We'll read one passage, and we don't read the scripture before. Sometimes we don't read the chapters before, and we don't read after. Yeah. And I appreciate when Ray was setting the historical context that this happened this time. Look, all that is happening in the world. Yeah. But even if we just relegate it to what's happening with, England. And then what's happening in the region.
That's a lot of that is in here, which is like if you've got a lot of time to sit down and read, it's there. But I just want to say, when Ray was talking about the French Revolution and everything, I mean, the ship does play into that. Like I said, in 1789, when the storming of the Bastille happened in France, the keel was there. It's probably out there somewhere buried in the East End Sound now. The ship was launched in 1790. She was sheathed with copper. She finally sailed to Saint Domingue in 1792, and it was in 1792, 8 days after she sailed, Ray, France declared war on Austria, and that was the official beginning of the war. But France did not declare war on Great Britain until later, like March 1793. And at that time, the British had a small peacetime force of vessels in Kingston Harbor. In Jamaica, there were just 9 ships, and there were some of them were very small, and one was the Europa, which had 50 guns on it. But as soon as news reached Jamaica that France had declared war, then
captured all of them.
The captains of all the crew. This is really in wartime. That's what you do. You capture ships and you make and you make money. There were incentives given by the countries for capturing things. And
at that point, were there still privateers? 1790s.
Well, I mean,
or they weren't calling them that.
I'm sure that there's always some. There's pirate. That's
still have privateers.
That's another whole show. Pirates and privateers, and the various levels of government authority.
Were they, like you said, capturing the vessels and stuff? Were they calling them privateers? Or?
No, the ships, the British warships had permission because they were at war with France to capture anything that was the French interest. So they sailed right over to Saint Domingue, and Saint Domingue was in turmoil, as you know, just because of mixed decrees coming back and forth from France to the colony and changing motives and giving different kinds of rights to people. It was a bit of a crazy time, if you will. But that ship was there sailing to various just back and forth ports there until when war was declared in Britain. The English ships from Jamaica went over there, is what I'm saying, and they had fair license to capture the merchant ships.
Was that the purpose, to go to capture anything?
The purpose was to capture ships, and then eventually they actually took some of the land positions. It didn't work out for them in the end because it was such a tumultuous time in history, but all those wartime efforts, because remember, this was like France's biggest sugar colony in the West Indies.
They were the first ones. They were one of the richest. I mean, you would never think so today, but they were one of the richest islands in the region, and they were the first ones to become sort of independent. Yeah.
They took advantage of the people, the enslaved people. They had a large ratio of enslaved people, at that time, and that's part of what the revolution in France sparked all the revolution in Haiti. Yeah. And this is the band that emerged to the top of that was, I'd probably say it wrong, but Toussaint Louverture. He is he's the man who...
He was mixed. Was he mixed?
I don't know that he was.
Creole mix.
There's a monument to him at the in the African American Museum at the Smithsonian, which is very interesting. He was just he became a well-educated person, and he did a lot for Haiti becoming the first republic, in the Caribbean.
A couple of things, and this is sort of like Dr. Big, as we were talking about the issue of the folklore and academic, right?
Yeah.
And the notion that too many, and I say this carefully, not to disrespect anyone. There are so many revisionists. I look at you as my students used to call him Ulysses Grant. Ulysses Grant in the U.S., right? Probably the worst president, bar Obama, all right? And the abuses of power under his rule, right? But if we can present history accurately, it would so informative and instructive. The privateers then are probably your mercenaries or private contractors today that the military would use, right? The government would use. Just a different terminology, but the same consequence.
Well, they would these ships, if you were British, you could capture a French ship in this time, and you could take it to the Admiralty courts in the UK, or you could take it to the Vice Admiralty court in Jamaica, and they would adjudicate, this, anyway. And then there was a share out of the goods from it, and when it was the warship, like capturing the French, this ship, before it was called HMS Convert, it was called L'Inconstant, which means the inconstant. But the British already had a ship called the Inconstant in their navy, and that's why they gave it a different name when the Admiralty acquired it for their services. It was it was a good ship, and so they pay actually a certain amount to the captains of the ship, and the captains of the ships that were in sight when the capture happened. And
I think in the 1790s you think, they don't have things orderly, but I mean, as your research showed, I mean, you got down to the nails and all that kind of stuff. They account for how many, how much sail and how much this and how, they really detailed out the what they did.
That's the value in it, right?
Yeah, that was because when we corresponded with the French archives, they actually had records where the ship was built, and so we know that Louis XVI gave the order for 2 frigates to be built. One was to be called L'Inconstant, and one was to be called La Lane. And then they shared out from the storehouse, how many nails, how many this kind of pieces of timber and framing member, and and it is kind of
it's like building a house today. How much blocks, how many bags of cement and stuff like that. So
it was absolutely fascinating to
that 200 years later you could get all that detail.
And the French archives, they were very forthcoming and sending these things. And then I could sort of read French, but I couldn't really speak it, and I certainly couldn't read old French.
Old French, yeah.
And there was a Belgian lady on the island who, and actually, Mrs. Duckworth, Anton Duckworth's wife, helped as well to translate, some of this old French, which then we were able to use.
That's the thing people don't appreciate. They're getting into at that time is handwritten things, and not only that, it's almost even if you know English or French or whatever, it's still almost another language. Right. I always wonder how our language today will be interpreted 100 years from now.
And I mean, and this is the handwriting as well, and then the preservation. But something to that, I think, again, the historical context. When we think of Jamaica and Haiti and other places, we got to be mindful that we don't forget that these were colonies. It's Jamaica is British, and it's their central outpost to administer their affairs.
And it's their main island in the region.
Yeah, Spain through Cuba. France has Haiti.
Yeah.
And all this turmoil is going on within France is evident in Haiti.
And we were Jamaica was the biggest, English outpost in the Western Caribbean at the time. And
it made a lot of British people wealthy. Jamaica did, landowners.
Yeah. But at that time we were, we were part of Jamaica, really.
Well, I don't know. I always take his shoes out. I think.
Well, I do. It's. We definitely were set apart from it, but I mean, we were
convenience or political convenience to administer.
Well, not just politics, just location. We were all of these. What I'm finding is everything that went through Jamaica kind of either stopped through here at some point or some way.
We were on the sailing route. You're absolutely right, Ray. That's a good observation because all the ships sailing past Jamaica, and then even the British ships that were based in Jamaica, they would patrol. And they would sail back and forth, and they'd come by here, and they'd stop at the hogstyes, and they would wood and water.
We're like on a long trip. We're like kind of like a gas station.
We had the hogstyes. What do you think that was named for? The hogstyes were there. And it was a good place for them too, because the breezes generally come from the east, the southeast, or the northeast. So the smells was blowing offshore.
All right, Ms. Susan reminds us of this quick break, and we come back. This is history, but it's alive. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
Wouldn't it have been grand if you had purchased land 30 years ago? It may not be 2020, but a perfect vision has never been more clear. Cayman Brac and Little Cayman, poised for growth with an eye on the future. Your land, your history, your future. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
King Sports Center takes pride in being more than just an ordinary gymnasium. For 14 years, their multi-purpose facility has been providing the community with a variety of sporting, recreational, and relaxation activities. King Sports Center has a bowling alley, lounge bar, multi-purpose rooms, powerhouse gym, rock climbing wall, bungee jumping, a 10,000 square foot rink, and so much more. For more information on the variety of services, call their friendly staff today at 946-5464 or email kings@candw.ky or visit www.kingsportscenter.com. King Sports Center, your one-stop shop for fitness, recreation, and relaxation.
I've got some beautiful clothes.
Due to circumstances beyond their control, Puritan Cleaners regret to announce the closing of its Elgin Avenue branch, effective February 21st. Customers are asked to please collect all orders held at this location by or before February 21st. Orders not collected by the closing date will be transferred either to our main location at 337 Eastern Avenue, Georgetown for collection, or to the Savannah Countryside location if requested. Puritan Cleaners will continue to offer free pickup and delivery service in and around the Georgetown area, and for the business community with arranged times. Customers wishing to utilize this service can complete an application form, which is available by emailing Puritan Cleaners at puritangc@candw.ky, or they can be collected at our locations, Countryside Shopping Center or 337 Eastern Avenue. For ease of convenience, payments can be done online through credit or debit card. We thank you for your continued patronage and look forward to serving you. Meanwhile, we're looking for another convenient location to serve you as well. Should you have any queries regarding the above, please contact us at 949-7104. That's 949-7104. Puritan Cleaners, you feel good when you look good.
See What I Saying is a special feature of Talk Today with contributions from the National Museum, a language, history, and culture show on Radio Cayman 89.9 and 93.9 FM. See What I Saying?
Good afternoon, welcome back, and thanks for joining us for our monthly See What I Saying. And Director of the Museum, Dr. Pickett Denton, joins us. And it really looked like he got a haircut again.
Stop it.
You look good, man.
Stop it. So let's get into some folklore, I think. Huh?
That's my words, yeah.
Yeah. So, and just to step back, why Miss Peggy was talking about the French thing. The ship that's out there that's wrecked is actually a French ship, even though it's British.
It
physically is a French ship.
It was it was built as a French ship and it served as a French ship, but once Britain captured it, it's now a British ship. You know, so Britain actually still owns that warship because Britain has never given up rights to their warships, technically.
Oh, so it's not even ours.
Well, it is. You know, we're...
Oh, yeah.
Possessions, 9/10 law.
Yeah.
But it's Britain because we belong to Britain. Don't forget, you're a British subject.
I got it.
You're a possession, my friend.
Sorry.
Okay.
But I mean, that means that, yeah.
It was born of the French and grew into the...
Well, the guns were forged in France, the cannon.
Okay. So that's what I was saying. That's why we were talking about the French so much. So folklore and past history books, we noted that some of the dates are wrong.
Oh, about the wreck of the 10 Sail?
Yeah. I think Hearst, doesn't Hearst have that it was...
yeah, Hearst doesn't get it right.
Yeah.
Hearst doesn't.
And I think some of the other little... If you got the listeners who have those little small yellow, green and red books, I think that's Williams' book in the 70s.
Yeah.
And the dates are wrong. I said in it, the ship... some people think the ship had 10 sails. What else? No one died is another thing. We always hear that. And local canoes rescued them, I think, in the night. It was actually the day. Well, we'll talk about that.
Okay.
And the big one was royalty was on board, and that's the reason why we don't have tax.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. You know, I mean, again, you know, I kind of studied all that stuff as well, and people can only do as good as they can do at the time they're doing it from the information they have. So, you know, we were able to correct a lot of that. You know, in this study, you know, when I first went to interviewing, you know, the older people at East End, I actually also had the great benefit of Anita Ebanks had 10 years before me had taken a tape recorder down to East End and had recorded a lot of the people, and you know, that was in like 1980s, and in 1990, you know, when I did the tape recording, some of those people were already dead, but I had access to Anita's tapes, and then, you know, I transcribed them, and you know, and it's like the folklore, the people tell the story as well as they can at the time. So yes.
And we talked about there is some little nugget of truth in all of the stories.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say, Ray. The Commissioner Hearst in his 1910 book, he talked to a man named R. Tellico, and R. Tellico's...
What was it? How do you pronounce that again?
R. Tellico.
Its last name is Coe.
Yeah, Coe. His grandfather was alive when the wreck happened, and they called it the Wreck of the 10 Sail. You see it written right there without an S in Hearst, you know, and that was the story. So a lot of the facts, even the name of Pobblewell had survived at that time, but they didn't know the names of any of the merchant ships, and they actually got the name of the lead ship.
And also there
wrong.
was they were pirates, and there was pirates. They were running from pirates. They were pirate ships. All of those things.
Yeah. See, okay. Again, when I went to talk to people, I was hoping that somehow it would have traveled through time exactly where the wrecks were. You know, if there were survivors on land.
You are listening to Radio Cayman.
That's just to wake you up. Let you know that you were at Radio Cayman.
I think that was a divine intervention of someone.
Well, that's actually our news, but finish your point, never take the news that you were just going to share with us. Yeah, you just shared. That's our news, but before we go to it, you were in mid-sentence.
Yeah, but you made me forget. What was it?
I didn't make you forget. It woke us up, though. All right, let's take the news.
Oh, you were talking about the stories.
Yeah, I was talking. The oral. I went and I thought that I was hoping, you know, to get locations and names of people and, you know, and the history and everything. But what I found was just extremely rich folklore, and you know, the each of the people that I talked to and that Anita talked to told slightly different versions, you know, and sometimes their tales, you know, actually think it's the wreck of the Tin Sail, but it was a different ship, you know, that wrecked, and it
was maybe a century earlier or something.
Yeah. Or anyway, it is fascinating. But what happens is then you just realize that this event has great meaning to the people of the Cayman Islands, and the story has survived all of this time. And, it's maybe the granddaddy of Cayman's many wrecking tales. And so, sometimes it absorbs the stories, from...
Well, I would think even today, if 10 ships wrecked, how that would be today. Huh?
All at one time, yes.
We woke up the next day and on my road had 10 dive boats wrecked.
Well, like when the Ridgefield and the Raimondi Mimaju wrecked, it woke up the East End communities. They heard it,
Well, that's what I wonder about this with all of we get into it, how much all of the shots being fired and things like that.
Yeah.
But if there's only a couple of people and it's downwind or upwind from it or something.
And the weather and everything.
Yeah.
There weren't very many people living at East End at this time,
All right.
But
so,
good news travels fast when you're a wrecker.
Can we get into before we move on? You said you knew when the name of they started naming it, the Wreck of the Tin Sail.
Well, that was Artelico. That's Artelico told. That's what he told Commissioner Hurst
in 1910.
Yeah.
All right.
And some people were theorizing like that the cannons on the reef were from a fort. But, Hurst said, no, undoubtedly, this is where it happened. And by gosh, he was right.
And we want to go break?
Yeah, let's do the news break and we'll come back. And this is where the academic research mixed with the folklore and the melding of our history. And I think Ray suggested earlier again that we publicly appeal to all of our elders and those who may have had stories from their parents and grandparents, especially in the Eastern districts. Share with us, what you recall, maybe what you've heard. You always wondered, is this really true? Part of the folklore, or are you adamant? My mama told me that her mama told her that her mama told her. And who knows, it may be accurate. So we want to hear from you. Please, stay tuned for Talk.
And they might have it.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
Your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
With your latest headlines, I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins. The liquor licensing boards of Grand Cayman and the Sister Islands advise liquor and music and dancing licensees that normal permitted hours will resume with effect from Monday, February 21st. License holders are reminded to follow the operating terms and conditions listed on their licenses, which specify what their opening and closing hours should be. For more details, call the Department of Commerce and Investment on 945-0943 in Grand Cayman and 948-2400 in the Sister Islands. In international news, the U.S. government is investigating reports of Tesla cars braking unexpectedly on motorways. The so-called phantom braking problem is being looked at by U.S. regulator, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. It received 354 complaints in the past 9 months, and its investigation will cover approximately 416,000 Tesla Model 3 and Model Y vehicles from 2021 to 2022. Drivers say the issue occurs using the autopilot driver assistance system. Police are making arrests at a protest site in Canada's capital, which has been occupied by anti-vaccine mandate demonstrators for 3 weeks. The operation started early on Friday morning in downtown Ottawa, with police saying some protesters surrendered. It comes days after the federal government invoked the Emergencies Act to crack down on demonstrations. A group of protesters have remained in the city in defiance of orders to leave. The police operation has so far remained peaceful. Brad Pitt is suing his ex-wife Angelina Jolie for selling her stake in the French vineyard they bought together. The couple purchased a controlling interest in Chateau Miraval in 2008 and got married there 6 years later. Pitt says he and his former wife agreed not to sell their stakes in the venue without the permission of the other. But Jolie sold her share to a spirits manufacturer owned by a Russian oligarch, according to the lawsuit. Jolie has not yet commented. These are your headlines. I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette, brought to you by the Ministry of Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land. Explore your sister islands.
In the early 1900s, the Sister Islands enjoyed a relative prosperity, with the cultivation and subsequent exports of coconut being the primary industry, as Commissioner Sanguinetti would note during his 1902 visit.
Business seemed brisk. There has been a very large coconut crop, such as not born for years, and the carrying capacity of the island vessels to deal with the export of nuts have been shipped between October and February last.
The coconut industry would continue to expand with the expansion of plantations into large tracts of unused land.
Information from this historical vignette was sourced from Founded Upon the Seas, A History of the Cayman Islands and Their People by Michael Creighton and the New History Committee.
Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette, brought to you by the Ministry of Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands.
Explore your history. Explore your land. Explore your sister islands. The ultimate staycation experience. Your culture, your freedom. The land that time forgot isn't gone. It's your sister islands.
Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab. Blood test, x-ray and mammogram, all of that is MedLab. Affordable fees and friendly service, a full professional team. MedLab is always comfortable, MedLab is always clean. For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Call 949-7331 and ask about MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
See What I'm Saying is a special feature of Talk Today with contributions from the National Museum, a language, history, and culture show on Radio Cayman 89.9 and 93.9 FM. See What I'm Saying?
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. And thanks very much for joining us. It is our monthly See What I'm Saying with the great, counsel and curator of Mr. Ray Banker.
So the topic is Wreck of the 10th Sail.
Yeah, I know we pluralized earlier. You going to Walmart's? And Dr. Pig at the end. As you continue the discussion, well, maybe I shouldn't jump in. We were saying things just before the break. Do we want to get there? Because I was going to ask something else, but just to help me to understand certain things. But Ray, were we want to continue in that vein?
Yes.
All right, go right ahead, man.
Go ahead. No, you go ask your question. Is what I'm saying.
So, Dr. Pig, you go ahead. You were saying something else, and
Well, which part?
We
We're talking about a whole lot of stuff.
Well, I was intrigued by you talk about visiting 1980, and I think why I'm asking this is that there's so much in Cayman, all three islands, that we either ignore, take for granted, or sadly don't see the great value. For instance, you were referencing the number of wrecks around the country.
Okay.
And we were looking at this years ago, even in the 90s, acquiring ships to wreck here on Grand Cayman, on the Brac, as potential dive sites to add more to the economy and to the diversity. But yet we have all these wrecks that have been over the years. Two questions in relation to that. One, that mapping that you have, how accessible you think that is for people to say, listen, these were the wrecks, and these were the years they were wrecked, and this is where you might find them?
Well, archaeologists know that, wrecks don't just necessarily look like, like the ship you see there just underwater.
That's what it does in the movies and the cartoons.
You mean it doesn't look that way in real life?
Yeah, how flat the sails are.
There are ships actually in some locations, like in the Great Lakes, the Hamilton and the Scourge, are just sitting upright with their masts in very cold water, and they've survived. But
well preserved, yeah.
It depends on the conditions, where you're located. So we've actually done, in the survey of wreck sites, there's a handful of really early wrecks, and then there's the significant wrecks.
When you say early, what time period? 1600s?
Potentially from the 1700s, and I would say up until right through the 18th century. I mean, in the 19th century, then we're getting into the metal hulled vessels and stuff like that, and we see more surviving. For instance, at East End, there's a ship called the Gloms, and it wrecked. It actually wrecked in 1913, but it had been built in the 1870s in Scotland, and we've got historical records, about it, and what happened with the people on the island, at the time. But it's kind of a robust shipwreck in that you can still see a number of large anchors, a lot of large anchor chain, parts of the inverted hull of the ship, the cargo hatch, the windlass assembly. That there's a lot of features out there, and we mapped that site actually before Hurricane Ivan with the intent that we wanted to interpret it like a shipwreck preserve, and I mean that's like a museum in the sea in a way,
right.
That make it accessible for the diving public and the snorkeling public, but also have a brochure about it. People on land could learn about it. It's sort of like up in Florida and in the Great Lakes and stuff. They have these. There's a big thing about educating the public by using some of these resources, right. And that's exactly right. There's robust sites. I guess I'm roundabout getting to the point that there are different kinds of wrecks. There's some that are so subtle you wouldn't even see,
right.
And
have we 40 years ago, you've done this. Have we now gone back and revisited some of these sites to see, with the passage of time and natural disasters, this was where they were, what they look like now?
Well, a lot of sites weather time very, very well. Once they become a little more stable in the sea, if there's iron parts of the ship, there's an electrolysis thing that happens that they almost grow they grow a concretion around them, which kind of protects them until somebody knocks on it, and then you open it up and it rusts and all that.
It's a few hundred of wrecks around the country, right?
Yeah, there's more than we've recorded, and right. we have we've done different kinds of research. Okay, we've done research, talking to local people who know sites, who've shown us sites. We've surveyed and discerned other sites. I mean, if you go out to the Ridgefield, that's not just the Ridgefield. There's about 5 ships located right there.
So with that research and that...
on top of each other.
Right. And that recording, if someone, whether it's a diver, whether it's another marine archaeologist, student, or even just the government, if we wanted to, just because we have different dive sites, would we be able to go and say, okay, all around here, these are the recorded map wrecks?
Not all of the sites, because the rare ones are, they exist nowhere else in the world, and you have to have certain protection.
Sorry. I meant the ones that you've helped to record and map. Would we be able to say, okay, here's an authoritative resource that this is what's been recorded and mapped? Would that be accessible? Is that
available? That's what we wanted to create Shipwreck Preserves, maybe a site at East End, a site off the west side of the island, one in the Brack, one in Little Cayman.
But it's not there yet. No.
Well, the sites are there, and the proposal was made before Hurricane Ivan, to start this program. But it takes oversight, and you can't just say everybody can go and here's X on the spot.
Right.
You have to make it. It needs to be safe.
Right.
You have to look at certain criteria, and protections and stuff.
Because I recall even driving around, we see signage from shore pointing out to certain things, right? We see that now.
You mean the Maritime trail signs?
That's the formal term to be ascribed to.
It is, and a lot of those signs have been lost over time, and we've actually we actually have some funding right now to go ahead and replace those signs. So we're actively getting quotes on that.
Because I think of just as a child in the North Sound, the Wilson and other vessels. This was much more recent as opposed to the 1700s.
Yeah.
Those vessels are there, some that undergo. But with these, wooden ships primarily, and then even some of the metal ones later on, I guess I'm trying to ensure that I understand specifically, given a request from one of our teachers. We were talking about the show today, and your phenomenal work in terms of your PhD dissertation and reference. What she wanted to know, and I'm still not clear, on paper somewhere, do we have like a recorded thing? So if government ministry, a student wanted to say, okay, these are the sites of the wrecks that have been mapped and recorded,
they haven't all been mapped and recorded.
The ones that have been.
Locations have been found, maybe diagnostic material to pick dates and stuff like that. But actually, the historical shipwreck files, they're
where would we find that? Maybe at the archive?
No, you can't just find it because some of them are rare resources.
But the stuff that you've done, like the mapping that you guys have done, where would we find that paper trail, that physical stuff?
We're trying to make things more accessible to the public, but it has to be done, in protecting the site. So it needs to be like a formal system. People can. There's nothing that says you can't be in the sea at any site. You can, if you see an anchor, you can look at the anchor and everything, but you can't pick it up because
no. I think he's talking about just the paperwork. The research.
It's not available. It's not just available to the public. It's protected under FOI, just like some of the archival things. The archive and historical information is not, But I mean, the will is to educate people and to bring that information. And if it's a site that's not going to be irreparably damaged by access, then we want to get people out there. Yeah. We want to do that.
Research. Yeah. Because what I was looking at is that we talk a lot about Cayman having no history, and yet we're amazed at the phenomenal history. Just look at the period of the 1790s, what's happening in Europe with France and England, what's happening in the Caribbean, just with Haiti, and then Cayman being this amazing place. I mean, Ray and I would have had many discussions, and my hypothesis is that what we saw as the turtlers, from our parents and grandparents and their grandparents, I honestly believe that was a practice that was going from way back when. And even though the official record saying when we first had settlers, I think just like we went to the Mosquito Key and set up huts, I've said to Ray, I'm sure the Tainos and did the same here for periods of time. But more importantly, if we look at the value that having this sort of information in the historical context of all the wrecks, of all the activities, it paints a much more colorful history.
It does.
And yet the information is there, but it's not there.
Well, it is. You're not correct. You're trying to do is to preserve it for your children. If people, people will go around and pick up this little thing. If you have a jigsaw puzzle and it's made up of all these pieces, and everybody comes by and they only want one piece, then all of a sudden you lose the picture. So what I'm talking about, the rare sites, is they're appropriate for interpretation in when they're properly say test excavated and interpreted in the museum. But the robust sites, the sites that are not so vulnerable, we want those to be interpreted more. So people.
But also too, right? I mean, part of if you look at it from the perspective, and this is driven by a couple of things I've been reading recently, and Ray, you sharing and sparked an interest. But we look at on land, we may excavate a particular parcel of land, and whether it's a species of plant, whether it's an animal, it's, sort of dislocated, or something historical, the step wells, for instance, we find it after. I think of just right in the North Sound, right off the back of there, there was this huge anchor. It was always there. I'm wondering to what extent, very responsibly excavation in terms of the dredging, we may have removed that anchor, for instance, or other things, because we don't know, just like we don't know on land of the plant, of that species, of that animal, that critter is now being, sort of dislodged, right? On land, it's easier. In the sea, it's probably harder. And if we have all these wonderful wrecks that through folklore, we're told, and over time it's lost, if the information is there, but it's not sort of collated and published in a way that do you realize how much wrecks you have?
That's what this is all about. This is my will to get younger people to continue this research and to do that research on these sites. If there's a serious student who wants to study a site, they will have access. It's but it's stewardship as well. So it is preserving things for generations.
Yeah. And certainly protection of intellectual property, but it also, I think, speaks to like information being accessible and available, so that take the National Archive, a phenomenal resource. I can't imagine the team over there, what the pressures they must feel, trying to make sure that they preserve this when there's a threatening natural disaster.
Oh, yes,
whether the potential, it could be, God forbid, a water leak because of a burst pipe or different things, right? And yet, we have so much stuff around this country, just in the sea. It's amazing.
But there are a lot of modern vessels, as you say, in the sea. There's, it's just that if anything's been on the seabed for more than 50 years, it is property of the people. It is property of the ground. It's protected.
Right.
So
it's fascinating, man. I mean, it makes us in a kind of way. But maybe we'll get that at some point in a resource that we can appreciate.
Yes, the more you can get your kids to want to be an archaeologist, the sooner it will happen, because maybe the serious study that Ray is doing on various subjects. If somebody really gets interested, and we have a young intern who I'm really excited about her. I won't say her name right now, but she's come in, and she. Her school record showed interest in chemistry and a whole different things, and she was very interested in watching shows about historical objects and things like that. And I said, would you like to be a conservator? And she said yes.
But this is the chicken and egg, right?
Yeah, but she's actively working with us right now and washing artifacts, and she.
I hope we don't get a thing just disassociated with just because you're scrubbing little fragments right now. But hope she gets to some.
No. She wants to study. I'm just saying you got to start with an idea, and if. The more young people we can get interested in historical subjects, or
but it's the chicken and egg. I mean, because if you access it, like for the archive for someone, for instance, or libraries, because we can get into them, because we know what it is, the interest is sparked, right? But then if you get in, and like I think what Ray is saying, if you see that it's there and you can actually engage it, but if you don't know, if it's not available, it's not accessible, then it becomes that thing that's only for them.
But there are many things in the archive that you don't get to see. Do you know that? Are you aware of that?
It's like in the museum collection, how much of the stuff?
It's collections, Well, we want to make everything more accessible, and that's the silver lining of COVID is that we have
is there community set up for that?
Yeah.
There is?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's interesting. I mean, this is where like the history of this country is so rich. I mean, it's so fascinating, and
we have now. The curation collections manager has given me the number on at the end of December we have 12,000 objects in the museum collection. Now these range from the size of a postage stamp or a little tiny shell, to a boat. So. We have our board, our new board is quite interested in, trying to have aspires to create a facility, that can better house them and so forth.
Yeah, it's. But really, this is where I think this sort of discussion sparked so much of an interest.
Yeah, sure.
Cayman.
It's the youth. Let's get the youth interested.
Our maritime heritage is phenomenal.
Okay, Mr. Wang, but let's get back onto our records here.
We're talking about a shipwreck.
Finish up the oral history. One of the interviews I think you were on talking about with the East End ladies, a sailor's grave. Was that? I mean, we talked about it. There was a lot of topics, or like you said, the oral history. To do with the record of 10 sailor's grave, maybe you think. How much of that you think is possibly true?
I believe that she's right. There probably is, a sailor's grave.
But then it might be mixed with some of the newer wrecks or something, huh?
No, I mean, the gun-based cemetery, when people started, settling more in East End, there are places, people get buried in, in sandy spots. And
I wonder, like West Bay Cemetery too, the Bosun Bay Cemetery, I wonder if that started because of that too.
It's also got a sandy spot, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, okay. And we got surnames. Can I get into some of the surnames and stuff from that oral history? One of the genealogy groups that I belonged to a couple of years ago tried to link or suggested maybe a link between some of the record of 10 sales. Just somehow they must have got the muster names, and if I can name out some of the names that they suggested.
They're all in here.
You'll probably recognize some of these. Benjamin Jones. And they were wondering if there was any connection with the Caymanians because some of the convert crew stayed here for 6 weeks, was it?
Well, the Captain Lawford and his officers, and he picked 30 of his best seamen to stay and work salvaging the wreck, at East End, and probably was. We think the salvage site is identifiable. Mr. X.L. Watler, when he's passed away now, but he allowed us to do collections of artifacts there. And just offshore, there's a little freshwater spring called Mermaid Springs, and he probably had fresh water. So now the site has largely eroded now, but we're pretty, 95% sure that that's where the convert was a lot of the things that were brought ashore there, and that's where they camped. Okay. However, a lot of things weren't brought ashore. They were just taken around to Hogstye Bay. Yeah. Okay. The masts of the convert, a later convoy had been dismasted on the way from Jamaica, and they actually pulled into Hogstye Bay, and they secured one of the masts that had formerly been on the convert, and were able to continue with the convoy.
Okay. So just to get back then, so some of the names, Benjamin Jones and Aaron Crawford, Daniel Green, John Scott, and they're wondering whether some of these were names that were introduced to Cayman. Robert Forbes, John Webster, there's a George Wood, there's a Peter Ryan, there's a John Whitaker, there's a John Morton, a John Hunter, a Solomon, that was the only last name, Ezekiel Banks, sounds like a West Bay, William Dixon, a Joseph Foster, a John Connor, Samuel Pearson, a John Bowden, 1B, John Forbes, Alex Carter, William Clark, the E, Thomas Hill, Joseph Watson, and Robert Martin. And like I said, these are names that I don't think the group has definitively linked any of those names to the Cayman names. But just to get, again, oral history, Miss Nettie Wood said that some of the descendants of the survivors of the Record 10 sales remained on Ireland, and Baldhead Bodden, daughter, married one in Georgetown. I don't know who that is, Baldhead Bodden. Maybe some of the older folks might know who that is, but definitely Mr. Craddock, she said, and Craddock Banks, said that the Whitakers were names survivors also that settled. And again, this is just oral history.
Is you're talking about Nettie Levy?
Yes.
Because
this is Nettie Wood. You just got it here. Miss Nettie Wood.
Nettie Wood, okay.
And then Miss Phoebe Watler Spence, who I think we had Oliver Watler talking about the Watler last name. And he said a lot of the information he got was oral history from her, and hers was spot on. And she said some of the survivors settled in Bodden Town and other districts, but not in East End. And then Miss Doris Levy, Wood Levy, who we might have on later on, or hear from later on. Record 10 sales went to Newlands and built a house. And she said that some of the other sailors went to England to collect their money and then returned to Cayman because they liked it so much. And one of them married a Lee Christian, and the Masons are from the Record 10 sale.
And the first chapter, in that book is all about that oral history, the records and all these people and stuff like that. So they're very accessible.
We have a clip with Miss Doris.
So we should do the break first, and then we'll do the clip. Yeah. And then we come back. This is where that partnership with the archives has been instrumental, right? So we'll continue after the break. All right. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza. Open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointment.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Ask our professional team about the benefits of cutting-edge technology with MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
Busy, busy, busy. Feel like there's not just enough hours in the day. Savannah Pharmacy, service to make your life easier. Now you can WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. And pickup is just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. Savannah Pharmacy, wholesome values with modern conveniences.
Coco Fest is back at Pedro St. James, Saturday, February 26, from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. Enjoy crafts, games, music, coconut-inspired food and treats, health and beauty products, and enjoy local cooks, craftsmen, artisans, and farmers through a shared love for the Cayman coconut. Entry is $10 for adults, $5 for kids. Children 5 and under are free. Coco Fest will be adhering to all government regulations to keep our visitors safe. So, go coconuts at Coco Fest, Saturday, February 26. Sponsored by Fidelity, Pepsi, Ministry of Culture and Heritage, High Impact Media, Cayman Spirits, and ATV Cayman.
The coconut nut is a giant nut.
The Work Jobs Cayman Payment Portal has been upgraded. Now customers can upload the application when making an online payment. This new portal feature allows for easier submission of applications. Call 945-9672 or visit www.worc.ky for instructions on how to use the payment portal. The 2022 Cayman Arts Festival is pleased to showcase their newest feature with the K Forte String Quartet featuring Sarah Newman, Harriet Henley, Joan Tamayo and Antonio Sanchez, performing Baroque-era pieces by Handel, Bach, Corelli, Vivaldi, Telemann and Purcell. Fall in love with the passionate quartets of the violins, a viola and cello. Thursday, February 24th, 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. at the National Gallery of the Cayman Islands. Tickets are US $40 for adults and $10 for students. For more information or to purchase tickets, please contact enquiries at caymanartsfestival.com or call 922-5550. The K Forte String Quartet, Thursday, February 24th, 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. at the National Gallery of the Cayman Islands.
How would you describe WHA Saying?
A language, history, and culture show on Radio Cayman 89.9 and 93.9 FM.
Okay, I like that definition. Now let's get back to the show.
WHA Saying?
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. And thanks so much to Dr. Peggy Denton for joining us. And the Record the 10 sale is our topic on the this month's WHA Saying. If I can, though, because I think your work you talked about in the 80s, this research took you an enormous amount of time.
That's true. It did. This was a labor of love because this was hard work. I mean, in 1980 we did the survey around the island, and that was a project, for essentially for the Caymanian government and all those folders, here and everything. But it was in 1990. I mean, I had already lived in Cayman since 1986, and my husband stayed here, and I went back to Texas A&M and got the finishing coursework for a PhD in underwater archaeology. And when I did that, then I had to write a dissertation, and Cayman was my home, and I chatted.
You
with,
were at the museum then?
It was the museum. It was just being born in 1990.
Yeah.
And April 1990, I came back from, I didn't get the PhD wasn't awarded until 93, but in April 1990, I was back, full time, in the island, and we were actually I think we were in the Tower building, and the archive and the museum were together in about 2 rooms. Yeah. But well, anyway.
Yeah, I remember a couple of Saturdays at Lantry Bay, just in the afternoons having a chat with you, the fascination.
Yeah. What are you doing out there?
Hey, listen, I was one of those young, ambitious boys that found you can make money if you put yourself to work. And you can cut grass and pull bush while you're studying. What do you say, Bobo? Okay. I believe my parents were instilling ambition in me. What they were thinking. but for my benefit, Dr. Peggy, your research now, that's like the property of the museum, is the research. I mean, like all your research.
Well, I picked the subject of the Wreck of the Ten Sail as my PhD dissertation, and so that's my independent research. But I was employed part-time with the museum at the time. I was doing other things, writing labels and reading this and doing that and doing whatever. But the museum was interested. In the Wreck of the Ten Sail. So I had a $10,000 grant from Texas A&M University to do the research, and I did go to the archives in England, and I stayed with some relatives, and I went to Jamaica, and I went to those archives and so forth, and I made copies of everything, but I deposited a full set of my work at the National Archive, and the museum has a full set.
So it's basically because you said the Cayman government in the 80s, so it's the government's sort of information then. Where then? The research and all that stuff.
You didn't fully listen to me. Basically,
I didn't understand.
I had a grant from Texas A&M, and I was a PhD student.
Right.
And so that's I did this research as an independent scholar, if you will. But I was employed part-time at the museum at the same time. And the museum was very interested in the subject as well. And all of we got special permission under the auspices of the museum to survey the reef at East End and to make small collections of artifacts. And all of that is property of the museum. All the artifacts, yes.
Okay. Yeah, because see, this is where I keep saying this history, the information is so vast and so rich, right?
Well, this is for the young people to study. That's what. I also, chased bulldozers on land to save, artifacts when, parcels of land were being developed. There's more than 100 boxes of artifacts that are housed at the museum and belong to the museum.
Right.
Yeah, I don't own anything,
So
in that regard.
Yeah. So when we're talking about the information on the shipwrecks, I guess that's all kept at the archive or the museum?
The archive has a digital copy from the early 2000s. In the museum has the original files.
Okay, so
all of that is the museum's.
Wow. That's where
but they're just little thin site files. With simple survey information. That's why all these sites have the potential to become big research topics.
I can imagine.
Yeah. So
who would give you permission to sort of access that information? Where would one get?
Well, you pick a subject, and then if you've got a site in the North Sound that you want to study, talk to me, and then or whoever succeeds me,
So is the museum to give permission for that, for the students? Or
well, if you pick a research subject, that. If you come to me and you're,
but I think he's saying I think he's saying chicken and egg. If the kids can't find the research to say, oh well, this sounds like a good one.
Yeah.
I'd like to do that.
And also, So how do we go? And then who would get? Like, if I wanted information to get into this place, I would ask this person, or I want information. So to get information and permission, who would?
Well, would you talk to your teachers and stuff about subjects that you might want to study? They might be aware of something that would be
right. But is the permission granted by the museum, by the ministry, by the archive? Where would one get permission to see this stuff?
Well, I think that people, if all legitimate research, like at the archive, is encouraged.
Yes, yeah. But permission would be granted, because you said earlier that it's sort of available on the by permission.
FOI.
Yeah.
Well, it is. You know, it's these are entrusted. Site files to for
so
the
permission would be
for
granted
people.
through the FOI, but through the museum.
But they're not FOI-able. You see, the actual site locations are not FOI-able.
I think you're talking about site.
Yeah, I'm confused and not sure why we're talking so much about this particular angle. But
no. Yeah, it's just that it's so fascinating to see the vast resource that we have. I mean, even if
it absolutely,
and we don't even know that we have it.
And you're stewards of it. You're stewards of it. So you get your young people trained, and they can take these research subjects, and they will be invited, and it will be wonderful if people can do this.
Okay.
So
we left off on oral history. Sorry, I got a clip I need to play. So we talked about how oral history can lead us down at different locations, and what we have is Miss Doris Wood. We got it. Yeah. And she's going to be talking about, she's going to give us a song, and she's going to be talking again about some of the maybe possible descendants of Record of 10 Sails.
What can you tell me this evening about the Record of 10 Sails?
Well, according to what the people I understand from the older folks, the Wreck of the 10 Sails took place here in the year 1791. That's the correct time, 1791. And there was no people living in Easton at that time. The colonists was here from the United States. Colonists, that is the people that had disagreed there with their flag. They were here in the island. And I presume Bellini was here. Bellini and William Stephen Watlers too was here. He's supposed to be here at that time. And then I understand that the wreck took place. The first one struck off Coco Reef just below in the bay. It was coming down. There was King Edward III had formed the law that was going to try to his endeavors to free the seas of piracy were during the pirate age, and he had got a fleet. A convoy of ships, somewhere about 25 or 30, to go out. And they were all lined up. When they got on Coco's Reef, it's a little reef that go out and sets up. And now it didn't have no lakes or anything to the island at that time. And when the ships got shore on Coco Reef, and she gave a distress signal. She blew a trumpet that she was having trouble. And they thought they said, come on, these pirate ships. And they're all 10 made for her, and they keep coming from different angles. They keep getting shore, and then they kept getting shore until they all got shore between Coco Reef and Gun Bay. Well, by morning, was 10 the ships ashore. Then, not nobody not living in Easton at that time. They had them, so I suppose, make known to people. People began to see, come and see vessels ashore. And people came up to Leeward. People say that come up Barden Town, slavery is going on. Must be to a little extent. Slavery is on. The slave boys and slave ships. Slave people, they came then to their rescue. And I understand that it was a Duke among them. I didn't hear when the prince, it was a Duke. Duke that was monochrome, but everyone was saved. And no, they took time, and not a soul never got killed. And for that reason, King George made a inscription that nobody from Cayman would ever be forced to go to war on the cause of the kindness that these people, they took them different ones in their homes and lodged them till some of them could go back to England. No, that is really a fact. That not only that some could get back England, some decided to stay here. But the man that was the flagship that struck in on Coco Reef, and the name his ship was Captain William Martin, and that was the flagship that was leading all other ships. She struck on Coco Reef, and was just a little below it after they passed Easton, but nobody wasn't living there at that time.
So where's Caucasus Reef?
Just Caucasus Reef, just little after you turn even. Everyone these days come here one day.
Is it near Colliers?
It's right up here above me.
Right up here.
And come here on a smooth day. I'll show you, because see, it goes up into the reef with a little kind of what you would call a reef lake. And it's shallow water, and a piece of rock comes right up in the sea, and that's called Cauca. Cause like how when you Cauca, it'll pile up, and the Caucasus Reef is on the map. Caucasus Reef is on the map, and that's where the first one struck, and they keep striking further up until the Garden Gone Bay. The ships, I understand that 6 of them got off, 6 stayed here and 4 got off. They didn't know nothing about large agents, hadn't had any large agents at that time. They might have had it in England for a while, nobody didn't know anything about it. Anyhow, we here in Cayman, well, as far as I know, that you know Caradosa is one of the ships, and the other one is Gwendolyn Warren. There's the 2 that we can remember, the 6, the 10.
Tell me their names again.
Caradosa is the one that Captain William Martin was on, the Caradosa. And the other one was Gwendolyn Warren. Gwendolyn Warren is the 2 we can remember here and now. Because this long time before we were born, even before Grandma was born. Now, this is what Grandma tell her. They don't work out all around. No, it is true, because Grandma tells me that according to what it tell her, Savannah people was bound to know something about them. Now, the Savannah people said they don't remember, but the Benny Newlands, these 10 sales people, Benny Newlands, and they built up, our house was in David Nathan Marion, and they built their house right on to that, Lima for sense, right on that, his making when I put 2 sides, and could get plenty of lumber in them days. You only got put 2 sides, because you got your side in the house that was there before, is 1 side, you only got put in but 2 sides, and so they had one hell of a big house building there on and Nathan Marion in Newlands. And after that tribe, that thing, sale crowd and died, they worked themselves automatically the next generation now till they got out Savannah. But this is the inheritance from in Savannah.
So what do you think, what with some of the names that we have today do you think came off the 10 sales?
Well, listen. The song is right there. Kick him out, no, she kick him a Liverpool, kick him a Liverpool. He was on the 10th there, kick him and come here, and he had a child by Sarah McCoy. She lived in Baden Town.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
Subway makes it easy for you to stay on top of your health and wellness goals with our Fresh Fit menu options. Choose from 5 Fresh Fit Subway sandwiches with only 450 calories or less per 6-inch sub. Turkey breast, veggie, oven roasted chicken, black forest ham, sweet onion chicken teriyaki, or make your 6-inch Fresh Fit sub into a salad or wrap prepared with fresh vegetables. For a full menu and nutritional information, visit subway.ky. Subway, eat fresh.
Attention Caymanian job seekers. Do you want to know what jobs are available right now in the Cayman Islands? See all available jobs listed by occupation in the Jobs Cayman job directory printed in this week's local newspapers. Pick up the newspaper to see all available jobs listed by occupation. Then go to www.work.ky. That's WORC.ky to register and apply online. This Valentine's, save 25% on new Tempur-Pedic or Sealy mattress. Yes. 25% off plus free delivery on mattresses, adjustable bases, and foundations during Brand Source Home Gallery Valentine, Tempur-Pedic, and Sealy mattress sale on now. Select from firm, medium, soft, and pillow top in all sizes. Hurry! Sale ends Saturday, February 19th. Brand Source Home Gallery, Dorsey Drive. Call 949-5000 for details.
Tune in Monday through Friday at 7 a.m. and 10 p.m. for the Daily Sports Report, covering local, regional, and international sports. Proudly brought to you by Dr. Wayne Porter, offering a full-service dermatology and dermatological surgery practice. Call 946-9020 to book your appointment today.
You know what I love to do with my family? Go fishing. I can put the bait on and cast and reel the line all by myself. My mommy and daddy say when they were little, there were plenty more fish to catch, but now there are lots more people fishing, so it's harder to find them. That's why we have marine parks now. They set some areas aside so the fish there can have babies and grow bigger. Then they swim out to other areas where I can catch them. Having the marine parks means there will still be fish there when I'm grown up and fishing with a family of my own.
For more info, download the Cayman DOE app or visit doe.ky.
How would you describe WHA AH SAYIN?
A language, history, and culture show on Radio Cayman 89.9 and 93.9 FM.
Okay, I like that definition. Now let's get back to the show.
WHA AH SAYIN?
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thanks very much for joining us. And
when I'm technical difficulties, is that what I call?
No, I think what I was called is when you send things down the pipeline and they get squeezed. No,
I don't know. So we missed a lot of a part there. We missed a song actually that she was singing. I don't know if you want to volunteer for it, Miss Becky.
I don't have
the
good
words
singing.
right here.
I know the words because I listened to that tape a long time ago, and it fascinated me. And okay, I'll try. I'll see. I'll see what happens.
Do you have the words?
She knows about it.
I know it.
Yeah. She's a songstress.
Because I've sung it to different people. I sung it out on the reef the other day.
You did?
Well, not really. But when we were doing the live tour, the live Facebook tour down there. And the some of the folk singers said, "Oh, we want to. We got to sing that." And Brian said, "I know the tune, Mr. Radley. It's a traditional tune. So okay, it goes something like this." Kick him out the door. She kicked Jimmy Little Fool out the door. Kick him out. She's my darling Sarah McCoy. You can tell her I say I come again. You see my darling Sarah McCoy. You can tell her I say I come again. Kick him out the door. She kick him out.
You have that on CD?
Premiering live tonight at the,
I don't know. I might have left out one line,
MP3.
No, that was awesome. That was awesome.
Well, anyway, and then she said, and the 10 sail people, they were here.
So the other voice you heard was Miss Anita Ebanks, the former director of the museum, and I think she's basically the one that started the oral history. From what I'm getting from the archive,
she did a lot of the interviews of people who had passed away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now we're on the topic of record 10 sales, and we haven't even gotten to all the details yet.
Is there more? I forgot to look at the backside.
Yeah, the talking about the details of what happened, how the wreck occurred, and all that stuff. The thing and the survivors' accounts and all that.
Okay.
Just so tell us, you told us about how they captured a French ship and then they changed it into the convert. Mm-hmm. So the other thing that people don't realize, and I think you may have touched on it a little bit, there were not just 10 ships in the convoy. There were, 58, 59?
Well, there were 58 merchant ships plus the Navy frigate. So there were technically 59. And the frigate and 9 of the merchant ships all wrecked together on the East End Reef.
And again, the reason they're convoy is because they're at war. Britain is at war with France.
Yeah,
so
and they were protecting them from the French.
Okay, so this convert was the the guardians, basically.
They were the lead ship. They were the ships had actually gathered in. They were, some of them in the harbor in Port Royal, Jamaica, but then they sailed to Bluefields and then to Long Bay off the east end of that island. And several ships from the north side of Jamaica came around and met them, and they all, were together rendezvousing. Captain Lawford gave instructions to each ship. That's why they knew what the signals would be, what the rules.
That's what I want to ask.
Yeah, what the rules.
So, and that's all through the oral history also, that they a lot of signaling. There was a lot of signaling going on, and it was wrong, or they got. They thought it meant stay, come together, and actually means get away or stay away. And then what sort of signaling methods they would have back then? Obviously, what we talked about had cannon.
Well, yeah. Remember, because there would have been flags and that sort of thing as well. But remember that this is 3 a.m. and it's dark. And there's fresh breezes, and the ships in a convoy. You see, you got 59 ships. They can't, you can't just turn like a motor vessel. You have to haul around, and you need room, and and that sort of thing. So they would have been a big, large, like flock of ducks, if you will, but they were the ships, supposed to follow the mothership. But a lot of times the merchant ships would sail ahead of their escort, because the first one to get to Europe then catches the market, for the selling the goods and that sort of thing. So there could be an incentive, and some of the merchant ships were faster than others. Some of the merchant ships actually had some protection of their own on board, with a few cannons and stuff like that. But some of them were like a leaky ship, which is
that's what I was going to say. In this this incident. They had problems with one. Well, I guess it was in a convoy they had the slowest ship, and the convert had to go back.
Well, that's exactly what happened. The convert would have been would have been a very fast ship, and she was there to protect the convoy, but she would sail ahead to scout a little bit and then turn around and come back and so forth. Okay. But a leaky merchant ship to the rear, and everything, did fire, a shot, and the convert sailed back.
This all is happening in between Jamaica and Cayman. That's where the first 2 days of the voyage. Huh?
Yeah, it did, and it happened twice, Ray. So that they were really, really delayed, and that's why they actually thought that they had passed, the island to the south. They thought they were to the south and the west of the island.
And they said they thought they were 5 leagues away from the island when they struck. So that's about 15 miles off.
Maybe.
Yeah. And I wondered, actually, we talked about this, and I wondered, because we did that study on the Gaul map, we did basically almost 2 shows on the Gaul map. First of all, a sailor friend of mine said that in colorful language, basically, if you follow the guide and the instructions on the map, you'll get yourself in trouble. Like I said, he said all the colorful words. So that made me think of try to figure out how much off it is, and then since then I've looked at like some 1790s corrections and everything, and they said he had the southwest point of Grand Cayman at 19 degrees by, and you might know this, GPS, 11 minutes.
How many seconds?
Don't know, but it's actually more like 1919. So that put it about, and then again another 1790 chart corrected it, saying because of the instruments that Gaul used was out of date. Cayman was actually 5 miles more north than what it should be, and that what people noted it. So I wondered whether whether that could actually have been helped part of the reason part direct.
Well, I suppose it could be, because Gall's map is 1773, and it was the first Admiralty chart of Grand Cayman, and he could well have had a copy of it, or and his master Thomas Popplewell, the sailing master, he's the one who
charted it.
He asked for Captain Lawford to change the course a little bit more to the northward, so that he didn't want to miss Cape Corrientes in Cuba. And he was afraid that they were, he thought they were south, and north.
So they would be traveling, was it northwest? Is that what
they were coming? They were intended to pass on the south side of the island, and they thought they were south and west of Grand Cayman when they hauled to the northward.
Mm-hmm. Hold on.
Yeah.
South and west. So they're trying to cross Georgetown.
Cross Pedro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pedro. But going to, I'm lost.
Yeah. So go to West Point, come around, and then go up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was thinking they were trying to avoid us altogether, so they was going across West Bay.
In fact, they found sighting the Cayman Islands, was a good thing. It's part of their navigating.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, it got dark, and then they'd been delayed twice. They didn't realize that a current was carrying them, so they,
Mm-hmm.
There are eddies. I've even looked at modern oceanographic information, which is amazing. They do drift bottle studies and
Mm-hmm.
things like that, and sometimes there's like eddies. Remember, we are the tip top of a huge mountain, and the Cayman Trench is off the south coast. It's almost 5 miles deep. We're on a different tectonic plate than Jamaica, if you will. So winds and ocean currents do strange things in our area.
So this is 3 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah.
And
it is.
And how did that go? So they were
badly for Captain Lawford.
So
we got a news.
Uh-oh.
Midstream, Bobo.
That's the news.
All right. So you pick us up, Miss Depp. All right. You want to hear what Ray was thinking? Well, you want to come back so you can hear him talking. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
With your latest headlines, I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins. The liquor licensing boards of Grand Cayman and the Sister Islands advise liquor and music and dancing licensees that normal permitted hours will resume with effect from Monday, February 21st. License holders are reminded to follow the operating terms and conditions listed on their licenses, which specify what their opening and closing hours should be. For more details, call the Department of Commerce and Investment on 945-0943 in Grand Cayman and 948-2400 in the Sister Islands. In international news, the U.S. government is investigating reports of Tesla cars braking unexpectedly on motorways. The so-called phantom braking problem is being looked at by U.S. regulator, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. It received 354 complaints in the past 9 months, and its investigation will cover approximately 416,000 Tesla Model 3 and Model Y vehicles from 2021 to 2022. Drivers say the issue occurs using the autopilot driver assistance system. Police are making arrests at a protest site in Canada's capital, which has been occupied by anti-vaccine mandate demonstrators for 3 weeks. The operation started early on Friday morning in downtown Ottawa, with police saying some protesters surrendered. It comes days after the federal government invoked the Emergencies Act to crack down on demonstrations. A group of protesters have remained in the city in defiance of orders to leave. The police operation has so far remained peaceful. Brad Pitt is suing his ex-wife Angelina Jolie for selling her stake in the French vineyard they bought together. The couple purchased a controlling interest in Chateau Miraval in 2008 and got married there 6 years later. Pitt says he and his former wife agreed not to sell their stakes in the venue without the permission of the other. But Jolie sold her share to a spirits manufacturer owned by a Russian oligarch, according to the lawsuit. Jolie has not yet commented. These are your headlines. I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
You see how hard it's raining?
Yeah, and I don't have time to fight traffic and get my lunch from Subway. I have so much work to do.
Why don't you order Subway by using the Let's Eat or Bento app? Save time, stay dry, and get your sandwich fast.
I never thought of that. Great idea. I'm going to order now.
Order me a veggie pizza while you're at it.
And a cookie platter for the office.
Too busy at work or home? Is the rainy weather stopping you from dining out? Order your favorite Subway sandwich, wrap, or pizza through the Let's Eat or Bento app with fast and reliable delivery. Subway, eat fresh.
Busy, busy, busy. Feel like there's not just enough hours in the day. Savannah Pharmacy, service to make your life easier. Now you can WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. And pickup is just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. Savannah Pharmacy, wholesome values with modern conveniences.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza. Open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointment.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Ask our professional team about the benefits of cutting-edge technology with MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
Government's new recruitment portal offers job seekers a paperless online process that makes it easy to apply for more than one job anywhere, anytime. With this step forward in our online recruitment presence, you can keep track of outstanding applications and appointments and receive notifications about your applications. Visit the careers.gov.ky portal and use the new one-stop shop for civil service recruitment to further your career.
The offices of dermatologist Dr. Wayne Porter will be taking appointments until February 17th at his Crew Road Clinic. Appointment slots are limited, whether you're seeking advanced skincare, Botox, filler, cosmetic skin enhancements, or simply looking to reduce wrinkles. Dr. Porter offers a full-service dermatology and dermatological surgery practice. For more information, email dr.portercayman@gmail.com or call 946-9020 to book your appointment today. That is 946-9020.
How would you describe WHA AH SAYIN?
A language, history, and culture show on Radio Cayman 89.9 and 93.9 FM.
Okay, I like that definition. Now let's get back to the show.
See what I say?
People don't know.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back, and thanks for joining us.
Good afternoon.
Ray Banker. Good afternoon, Ray Banker.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon, Ray Banker.
Afternoon.
We gotta get some turtle and and Dr. Piggott and Tim.
So, okay, we gotta let these people know how the details of the record of 10 sale. Okay, so we have what do we have? What we left off, the ships were supposed to be signaling each other, and it's 3:00 in the morning. And so what happened next? Can you say? We talked about the convert. Captain Lawford has gone to sleep. Basically, they've turned north, and Lawford has gone to sleep and left his master, Popperwell.
Yeah,
we know all those details.
Popperwell.
Mm-hmm. And what?
It was his watch. There were several officers, who alternated the watch, and it was Popperwell's turn to do the watch, and so that Captain Lawford walked the ship and looked at the chart, and as it turns out, there probably was some thing with the navigation. There was a log not thrown, or there's in the court martial some things come out.
They talked about a period about 4 hours not noted or something like that.
It might be, and but anyway, so
there's a whole bunch of different angles. I think that's what I thought. That's why I thought my map thing was important also.
But in answer to your question, what happened at 3 a.m. in the morning? Well, all of a sudden, Lawford, remember, he's down below, and suddenly they hear a cannon shot, and Lawford runs up on deck, and he's immediately wanting to give orders to sail back because he thinks it's the leaky merchant ship. But lo and behold, then they see the light from the cannon, and it's been fired by a ship ahead, and it turns out that there were 6 or 7 ships already on the reef, before the convert. And so there was a man up in the topsail yard, and he yells out, "Breakers ahead, close to us." And
for those who don't know, breakers is breaking waves, and basically the reef.
They were seeing the waves, and so that was he gave a signal, and it must have been a cannon signal for all the ships to disperse and save themselves. But what
Every
happened?
man for themselves.
But what happened is another ship on a different tack came around and actually ran on board the bow of the Convert, and it took them almost 10 minutes to free themselves, and they tried to come around again, and they hit the bow of the ship again, and just as the merchant ship was able to get away, the Convert struck and bilged. And
what do you mean by bilged?
It got a hole in it.
Oh, okay.
It struck the reef and it got a hole in it, and it bilged. And then Captain Lawford writes in a letter later, he says, the dawning of the day presented a most melancholy scene with 7 ships and, 2 brigs on the same reef as the Convert, a heavy sea running and the wind blowing directly on the shore.
And you have a great account of one in the book, one of the sailors, survivors. You think I think you said Captain Thompson, because there was actually army. There was army on board.
It could have been one of 2 men, I think. I think it was Captain Thompson was one of them.
No, I found one survivor's account that I actually not sure. I don't see it in your book. Wonder if you have actually in your records.
Which one?
I think it says it's the sergeant, and I looked at the roster, and it's William Porter. Do you don't have that one in the book?
I would have to look to.
Okay. Well, this might be good then.
Okay, sure.
This you want to read that thing? Dwayne is a better reader for me, and he gives an account also.
All right. So this is the
William Porter.
Yeah, William Porter.
Okay.
So he was on the Convert. He was a surgeon, right? William Porter, and this is an extract of a letter from the surgeon on the Convert.
Okay.
Dated the 20th of February, 1794. That one, right?
Yeah.
All right. It says the 8th of February at 3 o'clock in the morning, we struck with 9 others on the eastern reef of the Grand Cayman Islands.
That's spelled
Cayman.
Yes.
A few minutes made evident our situation, and the only prospect which presented itself was a faint likelihood of preserving the lives on board. Our boats were hoisted out and sent to the ships which had escaped the misfortune, with our passengers and part of the soldiers. As soon as the boats were clear of the ship, we cut away the mast. Approaching day seems only to increase our misery. Terrible was the wreck alongside.
That is the account in here. But anyway, go ahead.
Crashing between the ship and surf, and I appreciate really translating this from the English.
Oh, okay.
Because the F's and the S's were one and the same. Huh?
Yeah.
Where did you find that? I mean, because
just
that
online,
is the letter.
just online, recently, a couple of days ago.
Okay. Well, it's the most detailed letter about the wrecking. And it's in here.
But there's a couple of details that I never saw.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
sure.
read it? Okay.
Yeah.
Nothing but confusion on the decks, distress encompassed on all sides.
On all sides.
Yeah. Our sharers in misfortune lay dashing on the surf, some hailing for assistance. We were unable to assist ourselves, and sea and surf cut off all communication between one ship and the other. None of us expected to save more than life, and even for that we were wholly dependent on Providence. We lost some men in the surf, unable to resist the fury of the sea. They were disabled by wounds received on the rocks and then drowned. Such spectacles of distress in every shape unstrung the heart and made us less than men. Captain Lawford and Captain Thompson of the Army, Mr. Scott, and some others attempted to put sea in a barge, but were unsuccessful, being driven impetuously on the surf. And how they escaped death, I know not. We followed in the French pennants. Our set consisted of Lieutenant Price, Lieutenant Allen, self, Mr. Dorian, surgeon's mate, and a midshipman. We stood to see to be lost sight of the island, afraid of losing it entirely. We hauled in, after running to leeward for some hours. We stood in ashore, and I should have brought my glasses down, and at all hazards attempted the reef, which with some difficulty we accomplished. Hunger and thirst presented themselves in no delectable shapes, and the standing of a boat added something to the gloominess of the prospect. The country was impenetrable to strangers, and we had traversed the seashore without seeing anything like a habitation. The print of a foot cheered our hearts, till with indefatigable attention we traced it to his home, where we were kindly received in a small hut by a poor yet hospitable family. So to find the captain was the next thing to be done, which was the help of a guide we accomplished after a very tedious and fatiguing march. The ships which were wrecked are the William and Elizabeth, Goodwin, Morehall, Nicholson, Ludlow, is that Malure, Britannica, Martin, Richard. So, Hughes.
That's the captains.
Right. Nancy, then Leary, Eagle, Ainsworth, Sally Watson, Miss Fortune, Love and a Convert. The 9 ships were wrecked, were valued at about £200,000 sterling. Was that?
There's a few more. There's a few more words in that than that. This is the letter. This must have been excerpted because this is the one that was published in the Royal Gazette, and this is what I found in the archive in the UK that actually is the first time that we had the information on the names of the ship. So that is if you found a handwritten version of that Ray?
No, it's newspaper. This is the 20th in the newspaper, I think. 20th of February. February 20th.
Then it'll be the Royal Gazette, and that's right here.
But
I think this whole part though.
Yeah, here's the part that I'm wondering if you help us with, because in looking at it, it says 2 days ago a strange instance of the callousness of a sailor occurred.
I haven't read that.
Yeah, one of our men, whom we supposedly drowned, was found in a storeroom surrounded with bottles, in which situation he had been
what are you
unnoticed.
Where did you find that?
And unseen, thoughtless of danger for 7 days. So there was.
So we're wondering if that's in the ship. Does that sound like in the ship?
You didn't share this in advance, so I
want to share this.
This is. I tell you, Ray sent stuff at you. Right?
Yeah, but it's essentially this letter. But this is from the Royal Gazette. This is the newspaper published in Jamaica.
Right. So that letter is from.
So I
Captain Lawford.
I think she says
this is
one or two people, but he confirms it that
But you're saying it's the surgeon.
The surgeon, yeah.
Well, that is valuable. That's now we've learned another thing.
Yeah, and he's definitely Captain Thompson is definitely gone with Mr. Lawford, and in that account he talks about the canoes that saved them.
Right.
And he's saying he don't know how they survived over the reef. And a barge, that's basically like a cat boat or what?
Well, I mean, there's that is all described by Lawford in his letter. You know, basically what Lawford says is that after they had gotten people off the vessel, and they had also they put a lot of people onto the ships that were still offshore and everything. It finally got to be nightfall, and
we estimated that was about 450 people.
Well, there were roughly 280 on board the Convert, and there would have been up to 20 on each of the 9 merchantmen. So yes, it would have come near that. But
that's half the population that came on at that time.
The population is about 1,000. Yeah. So what happens is they get into the boat on the leeward side of the wrecked ship, and they try to sail around the ship. You see?
And they say they cut away the mast, and they do that to try to save, so that
they cut away the mast right away after the wrecking because they wanted to stabilize the ship. It would, it would be like this. But this is then at the end of the day, Lawford is finally going to get off the ship, and he gets off the ship. There's maybe roughly 20 people in it's the ship's boat, if you will, and their attempt is they're trying to get the head of the ship to the sea to get around it and to come through the cut. There must have been a smaller cut than there is now because that was enlarged.
Basically, the lifeboat they're trying to do that.
It's but but they couldn't get the head of the ship around to the sea, and so then a heavy succession of waves came in.
Yeah, they even counted, say it was 3 major waves that went over the boat.
Instead of hitting the reef and just breaking apart right there, he explains it as that providentially the waves carried them over the reef and into the Sound, where we were taken up in the small boats, and those would have been the canoes that came out to rescue.
Mm-hmm. And and like I said, this little part about they walk I'm trying to figure out where that is in East End. They walk in the reef or walk the beach, and then they found a footprint, and they followed it back to a hut, and a family there.
That's new. That's new to me.
That's new.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I did a little thing again with my genealogy group, and we did survivors kindly helped by a family, basically living on the beach in a small hut. 1773 Gall map has 39 families on Grand Cayman total, and it says 3 families in East End, so that really narrows it down. And that's around a place he has called Old Isaacs again.
Yeah, well, you know where Old Isaacs is, don't you?
I get lost when I get past Bodden Town, actually.
No.
Wait, let me finish.
I can show you where Old Isaacs is.
I'm sure I can get there. But 802 Corbett census, 8 years after the wreck. Grand Cayman population is numbered at 933.
Yeah.
And so with the help of Oliver Watler, 1802 census says there's 11 residents total in East End. Mm-hmm. So including one slave. Mm-hmm. They were the families of John Thomas and Charles McLean, and also Charles Pucci, and then you got the spelling of Pucci is a French. I think it's a French thing. Mm-hmm. And I found another spelling of Pucci also, French meaning friendly, great mankind, charismatic. So it's likely that it's one of these families that actually have a direct link to the record 10 sales of assisting them.
And old Isaac, who was interviewed, when Gall, I think, was doing that map, said he could remember when there were only five families living on the island. And I think he must have been about 75 when he was interviewed. Mm-hmm. So he
probably would have been dead by the time the record of 10 sale was around 20 years later.
No, 1773
and then 1793 or 94. Probably. He'd be in his 90s.
70, 89. Look at Aunt Julia Hides and Nettie Levy. They lived 104.
But even at that time, though, living in your 70s was
he was old Isaac.
I don't know. I don't know. There's some places in the world, and Cayman might have been one of them, that people had longevity here.
Well, I think so too, because probably they never had those.
He could well have been still alive.
But the Gall made it seem like, he's such an old man at 70s, well into his 70s.
Yeah.
Compared to England, he probably was. But I had a good conking fish one.
That is really interesting. I'll have to.
Yeah, I didn't see it in the book, and I wondered. So I
don't. The bit about the hut, I would have.
They followed their footprint. So I'm wondering, trying to think where, because they kept saying they're going to the leeward. They went out. The amount of hours they spent, like they said it went off, went out of sight of the island. So they were so scared, I guess, wrecking. And then came back in. And then they keep saying the leeward, and I'm there trying to think where the leeward is.
Well, are you saying that, is this the people who were brought to shore after the wreck making their way around to Hogstye Bay? Is that what you're talking about?
No, I think this is coming across in East End. Yeah. This is him landing. This is the surgeon and the group of people you have there.
Mm-hmm. Well, they do mention, the hovels of the residents. They didn't have enough. They had no bread kind to give us. They had no,
and now it makes
sense
with the storm being so bad.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well,
it 4 months after
actually a couple of days ago when we were out there, it was very, very windy, and you don't have to have a storm for it to be. Yeah. If you got a north.
No, I meant the hurricane that they had before
in October,
talking about not being able to supply them with food, and that makes sense. That I didn't name out the principal people. Yeah. The principal people that asked the people to take the survivors off the island were in this in February 12th, 1794, principal inhabitants of the island of Grand Caymanas, and they're spelling it Camanes. And we had Governor William Bodden Sr., Robert Knowles Clark, and again that name Robert Knowles, if you do Cayman genealogy, that continues, and there's a Bodden, there's a Eden, all with the Robert Knowles that they want, and that Knowles actually I think is, you can find that in Bahamas also. So there's a connection there. So also, Joseph Dalby, you got a George Turnbull, you got a Thomas Thompson, and a William Gerard Prescott, Hugh Mitchell, James Hoy. Now, some of these names, we've got the Governor Bodden, the Robert Knowles, and the Thomas Thompson that are identified as in people's family trees of multi-generational Caymanians. But others, surnames might, may have died out or immigrated elsewhere. So,
but this is the petition to the captains to remove, and we've got in the Public Record Office in England. We found a copy of that.
Yeah, no, that's I got from the book.
Okay. It's a handwritten letter.
And for genealogists, I mean, that would be great to find out if some of those names.
Absolutely, and you know,
call.
Yeah, let's take a call.
Go ahead.
All right. Hey, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you all. I didn't know if you were taking calls. I had to wait a while here. Yes, one of the wrecks you haven't mentioned, and it's very new. It's the Goldfield. That's a famous name in Cayman. Yes, afternoon to and to the
afternoon
to the lady there.
Yes, sir.
Very knowledgeable archaeologist and so forth. Marine. There's a lot more surrounding that issue with the wreck of. I call it wreck of the 10 sails because originally each vessel was called a sail. So it would be 10 sails, the 9 vessels that there were, and then the British warship, the Convert, the frigate, which, as you said, was a captured French ship and all that. That doesn't matter anymore. But and there were battles between the French and the British before that happened here, and I disagree with you with that. And the West Indies, that's recorded. But that doesn't matter again either. There was a problem with the reading of the cannon signals because Captain Lawford did mention that in his inquiry, that several of the captains were new to and did not understand the cannon signals, and that played an important part in their not veering away instead of bearing down on him and so forth. That had an important part to play. It's well recorded, the latitude, longitudes, all this. He had taken sightings that the chief mate, or it would have been a commander, they called them, the next to the captain in the Navy. He's also a captain, but commander, and then you have the master. But and that would be done by second to him too, also in navigation. There's very well recorded, and even well recorded, the bills of lading of the vessels, many of them, and so forth. The names, that's interesting that you did get the names of the vessels and so forth. And the Knowles name, the first mention of known of that was Thomas Knowles Eden, who was a son from the second marriage of William Eden to Elizabeth Clark. And then the first corps, that corps who would have been mentioned by the lady professor there was James Goodchild Corps. He got married to William Eden's daughter, Rachel.
Right. And if I might, Ray, perhaps you can interject because you said the Knowles.
Yeah, before the Knowles, Robert Knowles Eden, there was a Robert Knowles Clark.
Knowles Eden. Thomas Knowles Eden. That's the second of the Eden family.
But we're talking around about this person would have been born in the mid to early or mid 1700s.
Yeah, so this is a Robert Knowles Clark. So potentially that Robert Knowles Clark could have been.
Potentially that it's the same. It's a Knowles. Knowles was not a very uncommon British name. or it might have been Scotch or whatever, but it is, of course, from England and Great Britain. And but I do know for a fact, I have a lot of notes on it.
Right.
And Thomas Knowles Eden was it, and his son was one of the first of the 10 men in the first election, because William Eden only had 2 sons and 8 daughters.
That's 1800s, or I would think, right?
That would be the 1700s. The first coup came here in about.
No, you're talking about the election.
No, I'm not talking about elections at all. I said that his son, Knowles Eden, Thomas Knowles, his son was one of the men in the first election.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying, though. That's 1800s, wasn't it?
Thomas Knowles would have been born in about 1770 or so. And the daughter that the first co got married to was Rachel, born before that time. Before him. And that's who the first co got married to.
Okay.
But then he became known as governor, because he became a very famous person as the chief magistrate and Custos and all that. It referred back to him, not the grandfather, to the co who was talking to the person, whoever it was. That would have been that co. There are other wrecks around that maybe no one has recorded the names of them and so forth. My father often mentioned about salvaging lumber from wrecks in the 1920s, and even providing lumber for the Ells Memorial. My father talked about that church when they built that church, the Captain Rail Borden.
Yeah, we probably need to get you in, if you would accept the invitation publicly, man, to talk about your father, because that's an invaluable resource. If you would, Mr. Mickey, maybe we could do that, because it's part of who we are, man. It's a history. Hey, thanks very much, Mr. Mickey, for sharing with us. And this is where Dr. Piggy, that history, that love, that passion, Mr. Hurlston embodies not just the historian, but the oral history that we're not necessarily being able to capture to the extent that you have with respect to the research and publication. And if I might, publicly through you invite something I've been sharing with Ray, just out of a personal interest, because of the maritime, the rich maritime heritage that we have. I remember when those those signage was being proposed to be erected, whatever the discussions were. The fact that we have such wonderful trails, we have such wonderful places, but over time, through development, through just getting busy, we lose it. Maybe you could point us in the direction of the names of some of these wrecks, so that we can just have a public discussion where people start to appreciate where it's at. But I'll talk to you about after the show ends. Man,
sure, there are a lot of wrecks that we do share names. We know. I mean, I don't know which wreck it is.
No.
But we have archival records.
Right.
And all of that. You can we have two kinds of research. One is you're in the sea and you're finding sites and you're trying to identify what time period, what nationality, and so forth. But there's other things. You look at documentary evidence and you can find names of vessels. And then when you're really lucky, you can marry up a name and a wreck site, like we can do with the Gloms, or we can do with the Convert. That's rare, but it can happen. I mean, off of West Bay, there's the E.L. Banks. Yeah. It's a schooner that wrecked in the 40s. It's got, Cuban bottles on board, and
even with Locksley Call, I mean, Ray wrote it down, right? That vessel, right? And so what I'm thinking is there's so much of it, just the conversation alone would spark us to realize that this vast history that we have.
Yep. A lot of those are shared in there's mention of it in the trail map, or if you go online to the museum's website, and if you go to learning resources and if you go to archaeology, I think you can see the Maritime Trail map, and you can read every one of those, and there's a lot that refer to specific ships.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, like going back to what even the audio shared us, referring that there were the wrecking of the ships, the sort of the pastime or the occupation.
Oh, the assisted wrecking.
To take the anecdotal and to take of some of the recorded history, to recognize that even just through storm, bad navigation, inaccurate maps, and the time period, we've had these wreckage. But just fast forward through the centuries, all this is still there. That's just lost, and yet
it's not lost. It's
it's not being almost
not
lost.
appreciated enough.
It's only lost when you stop looking for it.
Yeah. Well, there you go. And the lion and the hunter.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I love this discussion, but Ray, if you look across the table and you see that lady over there from the back, you know what that means, right?
School's out.
We gotta go.
Yeah, Bobo. All right. Well,
I hope people got at least a better idea now of the wreck of the 10 sails, how it happened, and the details, and all the details. That when you retell it, maybe a little bit more to the accuracy of it, I guess.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, this is just another thing that Dr. Dana has reminded us that let's just open the discussion and the dialogue, recognize and appreciate like so many places with such a wonderful fabric, wonderful history. This country has so much that.
Absolutely, and when you start to know things, then all of a sudden you start to appreciate it. So that's we're here. We like to educate people, but we like it to be fun and and stuff like that. So
I guess what they say, the only thing you know is you don't know what you don't know.
Well, well, we can keep trying.
There you go. Well, thanks very much, man. And the publication is
so
available
welcome.
in the museum. It is the anniversary. I know many of us have formally and will informally take the tours, and maybe we'll have a renewed appreciation, whether it's snorkeling, whether we're driving along. And I'm so grateful to a new friend who was reminding me that you need to look again at this country and to see its richness. And those little trails, as I was sharing with you earlier, they got grown over and covered up.
They
we
do.
don't value what they mean for us,
They do. They're hugely important.
I mean, think of many of the roads today that are now public roads were once just footpaths.
Yeah. Heck, the Queens Highway was just, that didn't even open up. In 1980, you couldn't get, to.
Yeah. What our people must have endured. Mr. Banker, I know you're a humble guy in such humility, but seriously, man, thank you for what you do.
Thanks for having us.
And honestly, I never
thanks
tire
for
you.
Listening. And if you want to, if you missed anything, you want to go back, we're on the YouTube, Radio Cayman YouTube.
That's great.
All
right. Thanks, Susan. Thank you very much. And all is sunder alike. Let this weekend be one that is all and sunder alike. Let this weekend be one that brings much joy to the heart. Let the spirit imbue a sense of love. Let thine eyes foster.
Time for me to go.
Where that came from, I don't know. But
I don't know either.
Must have been my days of reading.
reading.
When the heart sees love, the eyes shine brightly. Join Mr. Art on Monday for the record. Stay tuned for Susan. Maybe she'll play me an Alabama song, or better yet, a Billy Joel, Shameless. How about that one, Sue? All right, come back for Talk Today right after the midday news and midday meditation. If you have complaints, keep them to yourself. No, just kidding. Share them, because true complaints we may find compliments with the I. Until Monday, be blessed.
See what I said?
See what I saying?
See what I saying? It happening every third Friday on Talk Today.
Jointly produced by the National Museum and Radio Cayman. A language, history, and culture show. Remember, it's every third Friday on 89.9 and 93.9 FM. See what I'm saying?
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. MedLab in Smith Road Plaza, your complete medical laboratory solution. Call 949-7331. And Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village, convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays.
Here is where tradition never dies. This is your radio.